Welcome to Peppershock Media's Marketing Expedition podcast, keeping you up to date with the latest in marketing and advertising. Now here's your host, Ray Allen.
Welcome to the Marketing Expedition podcast. I'm your host, Ray Allen. I'm the president and CEO of Peppershock Media and founder of the Marketing Expedition community. And today on the podcast, we have Bill Coletti, and he is a reputation management, crisis communication, professional development expert and keynote speaker, Wall Street Journal risk and compliance panelist, and a best-selling author of Critical Moments, the New Mindset of Reputation Management. And he has over 25 years of global experience managing high-stake crises. How do I say that, Bill? Crises, there we go. Issues, management, and media relations, challenges for both Fortune 500 companies, and winning global political campaigns. Welcome to the show, Bill.
Hey, Ray, it's awesome to be here. I look forward to a great conversation.
Absolutely. So just tell us a little, the bio says a lot about you, but just give me kind of a brief overview. What got you to where you are and what you're doing now?
So first part of my career, I was running political campaigns. And then we not that quickly, 15 years later, transitioned to doing corporate campaigns. And so took the same skill sets that you have in running a campaign, which is all about crisis, and you're either trying to mitigate the crises that you have or create crises for the other side, and took those skill sets and applied it into a corporate context. And we sort of innovated this concept of running campaigns for corporations from an issues management. And then that quickly morphed into crisis communications and reputation management. And so for 6 years, we've had our own firm, Kith, and we've been doing it in this form for the past 6 years or so. So it's been great.
So say the name again, Kith. What is that? Where did the name come from? What does that represent? Where's your brand? And give me a little kind of brand essence of that.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's a fun story. So the phrase is, I'm going home. So if you and I were talking on a Friday and we were colleagues, I'm saying, I'm going to go home on the weekend to go visit my kith and my kin. And so that would mean I'm kind of going back home. And my kin is an English word, American English word that we use quite often. And that's our family, is your kin. Your kith is your original friends, kind of your original tribe that taught you the sophisticated habits and put their fingerprints on you, different than the imprint that your family put on you. So they're your original friends that taught you sophisticated habits. That's your kith. And so we as a firm try to only work with people that we like. So we are a cadre of peers trying to share sophisticated habits and outcomes for our clients. And so that's what the word kith means. So it's friends is the short version, but really it's those original friends that shaped you to make you the man or woman that you are today.
I love that. That's awesome. So your kith, or the clients that are surrounding you, the people that you're kind of going through this path and this journey with, that's great. Okay, I hadn't heard of that before. I've heard of kin, but not kith. So that's a new thing for me.
Just kith and kin. It just shows up in British literature every now and then in that context of going home on Friday. And then as a marketer, and I'm sure you've done website design and whatnot, and you've had clients that have been, dragging their toes on how to name or what to name a company or a website or a product.
Right.
On my 6 years ago, was on a conference call with our web designer. And he said, man, we're like ready to launch in 10 days. You got to give this thing a name. It does not have a name because I didn't want to be Bill Coletti, LLC. And on my MacBook Pro at the time, my screensaver was Apple Word of the Day. If you're a Mac user, we have that option of Word of the Day. And Kith popped up and did Control D, saw the definition, and just bam. I said, that's awesome.
That is pretty cool.
That's where it came from.
Hey, you know what? Everything, it gets inspired from somewhere, someplace, somehow. So I think that's great. And nice little plug for Apple there. The word of the day. I do that too. And we, in my staff, we have our daily huddles, and everyone starts off with a word of the day, like how they're feeling, what are you doing right now? Just one word. Give me your one word. But today we actually changed it up to what's your joke for today, right? We wanted to be a little more lighthearted, so we came up with some
We need that in August or September of 2020. We need that.
Exactly. So I want to know kind of what helped guide you along the way. Is there mentors that you had? Is there tools? Is there resources that you went through and found, or, things that kind of helped you get to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the root in politics really was critical for me. I think it's different, Coke and Pepsi, or pick any two big brands. I mean, they're fighting for inches of shelf space at a retail level, and they're just really incremental skirmishes. And politics really forces you to craft messages that win 50% plus one. And, and you're really trying to move, big thematics. Now, granted, you've got political parties that get you kind of closer just by party identification. So I think really the expectations of others and understanding that in politics was number one. I think number two is just traveling internationally. I mean, having an exposure and a sense of self beyond your present state, and really just working on self-awareness and being an advisor. We advise people when they're kind of unfortunately at their worst, or they're having a bad day or a bad moment. And so having a sense of self-awareness that lets me be clear, but also lets me be empathetic. Those are probably three things that are pretty impactful along the way for me.
Tell me of an example of somebody that you've helped through a crisis, if you can. I mean, if there's a case study or something that you can share, how did it go? What happened? How did you help them? And what was the outcome?
Yeah, well, one story that I'm just really fond of, and it's not a prototypical client, and it's a client that is really relevant to me personally. There was a young man who about 4 years ago, was a college student, was caught on a video saying a racist chant. And it was ugly. White kid saying things that he shouldn't have been saying, caught on video. And really was able to work with that family on learning, and then an apology and a national press conference where he stood up and took questions from national reporters. But we certainly managed the media and we managed the apology. Then he went on, was allowed to have the career that he deserved to have. But he did it not only just having apologized, but he did it with a great deal of social awareness and social understanding. And so I'm really proud of that work. I'm proud of the work that we did with that family and for that family. I'm proud of that young man and the transition that he was involved in. And so, that's a very, when I get asked a question like that, that young man always comes to mind.
Absolutely.
I think that there have been other situations, related to data breaches. We were in a part of both Target and Home Depot, and those data breaches, and aware of situations where big companies needed to figure out what to say. Just this year, figuring out how to talk about George Floyd. We've had clients that have needed us, and we've helped organizations figure out how to talk about social risk, which is quite frankly the big area of growth for us is figuring out social risk. Industrial accidents are secondary, but I think figuring out what to say about George Floyd, which is typically not a topic people want to talk about, and how to talk about it, when to talk about it, and what to say when it's not something you've talked about previously.
Yeah, and that is definitely something that is very important that's going on in our nation right now. And so being able to rely on people like you to help through that messaging is very, very important. Thank you for doing that, by the way. I think that's something that people need.
We value it. We value it. And I think we're getting a lot more clarity. I mean, this is all we do. All we do is crisis communications as a firm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're getting a lot more clarity is that the blocking and tackling response around what people generally think of as a crisis, whether it be an industrial accidents, sort of malfeasance, sexual harassment, even, some of these issues that we've seen over and over and over again, companies still need help and guidance on that, but the playbook is relatively straightforward. I think these social risks, the implications of climate change, the implications of LGBTQ, the implications of race, politics, the Trump administration, things like that, those social risks are significantly more complicated, and that's where we're spending our time on really helping clients. A factory blows up, you apologize for it, you fix it, you put out the fire, and you move on.
Right.
Not a whole lot of deft strategy there. We work with clients that do that, but that the greater frontier is this area of social risk.
Right. And so much to be said about diversity and inclusion and the things that people are going through right now. I'm glad that people can lean on you to help them through that, for sure. So one of the things that I like to ask people is, what inspires you to do what you do? Why do you do what you do? And why do you want to keep doing it?
So, crisis response is what I'm good at, and that's how we help people. The way I serve people is really helping communicators and the CEOs that they serve, helping them get real clear about mission and values and purpose, because that then makes crisis communications that much easier. So I think what really gets me excited is when organizations don't want to just brush it under the rug and issue a statement and move on, but organizations that want to grow and expand their license to operate and really develop as both individuals and as entities. That's really what gets us exciting. And so that goes to the spirit of Kith. We really want to instill sophisticated habits, and a sophisticated habit is not a press release that just gets you out. That's just an apology. It's really sort of something deeper. And so for me, it's about the personal growth and the professional growth of individuals, as well as helping organizations figuring out their why. That's a lot more important to me.
Excellent. You help them figure out your why. That's why you do what you do. I like it.
Exactly.
So what, if you could do anything in your marketing strategy with what you do to get new business and put your name out there, get Kith out there more, what would you do that you haven't done yet that you would like to explore and do more of?
Oh, it's great. I mean, I have tons of ideas of things that we want to do to share, to have the courage, confidence, and conviction like you had to start your own podcast would be one. To have a digital summit. I think we really explored having, an online convening and have conversations around crisis. And so those are two things that we think are emerging that we want to do, probably on growth plans for 2021. So for the first one, we're just spending more time with wonderful people like you. Yeah. And then the second one, we're just doing convenings for our clients to talk about these issues.
I think that's great. Yeah, that's definitely one thing that's started a lot more of is online networking, online, meetings. And I definitely had to pivot some of the events that we put on to completely virtual instead. And I think that that's going to be a way that people will do this. It's kind of maybe a hybrid situation. Maybe there will be people that are in the room live with you, but then also streaming Zoom. And I am teaching a class at the university here locally, Boise State University, and we are doing both. We are having people in class and then also on Zoom. And so I'm getting used to that, right? It's getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. And then, podcasts, right? That's definitely exploding now. I think, we've been doing podcasts for years, but now more and more, and we're starting to release them once a week now. By the way, it'll be released on Thursdays, but it is something that I think is a great way to, like you being interviewed, but also being able to share and go through that journey. And I think you would make a great podcast about crisis communication and giving people ideas of what they can do if they get themselves in a situation that is in a crisis mode and what that looks like, and maybe some examples that you've done. So I think that would be a good. I would listen to that podcast, Bill.
Excellent. Well, very good. That's what we want to talk about. Add in there a little bit of personal development and growth are the things that we're interested in as well. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I think it used to be that podcasts we would say do 20 minutes because that's when people would commute, right? Well, now my commute time is from, my couch to the kitchen, or
exactly.
my office there. But it's actually interesting because podcasts have actually grown more during the quarantine. More people are listening to them, and now more people are streaming in on Spotify and Pandora and just other venues aside from just Apple iTunes. So when you get going, when you get your podcast up and running, there's lots of different places to put it and get it out there and make sure that it's seen and heard, right? And download.
Yeah, absolutely.
Download it. Yeah, for sure. So tell me some tools that you use, if it's technology tools or maybe some processes that you use, but what kind of tools do you use in your business? What do you use with your clients? How do you manage what you're doing? Maybe there's some tools that you use to submit with your press releases. I don't know. Tell me some of the technology and tools that you have.
Yeah, most of them are internally focused. I mean, we're big Slack users. We love Slack as a firm, so spend a lot of time on Slack. One I shared with you that you and I talked about a minute ago offline is a technology called Loom, where it just lets you shoot online videos. So if you're editing a document, your picture superimposes on the image. are on the screen. And so you can use Loom. So I love Loom as to shoot videos. And so if I'm with a client, I rarely edit, small dogs versus puppies. I don't really comment on that, but on the big themes of what we're talking about. And it really lets me sort of share in context from a video context, what's going on, and then supplement it with a phone call, obviously, but it lets you do things asynchronously. You don't have to get everybody on a call. I can sort of share my perspective for people to reflect on it. So Zoom, if you're not using Zoom, everybody's using Zoom nowadays. That's
Zoom, yeah.
Love that. And then from a project management standpoint is Asana. Technologies for sending out press releases and Twitter and social and whatnot. None of those are particularly revolutionary, but from a firm management standpoint, those are kind of three tools: Slack, Loom, and Asana are two that we spend a lot of time on. And we've tried them all. We've been in Basecamp, Trello, all the different formats, and just sort of settled on Asana.
Yeah, we use Asana as well, and it definitely is helpful because I think that anybody can use Asana, and if we have interns, we can, assign them tasks, and they don't have to be within our, domain, if you will. And I think that a lot of people have picked up on Asana. Slack, I started using. It's just another place for me to go, another tool, but I definitely can relate to that. And of course, Zoom. Yeah, it's definitely. Yep.
Slack has been almost an email killer for us. We only email externally. We rarely email internally.
Okay.
Which is a nice feature.
Using like Google Meet or, Hangouts and that kind of thing, like chat feature, but I can see where Slack could be useful for sure.
Yep. Yep. We've not invited clients on it. There's some agencies that we benchmark and talk about it. They've actually invited clients into the workspaces on Slack. So,
and how many people do you have working with you, Bill?
So there's 6 of us.
6. Okay.
Six.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Team like us, we're there's 10, but it's
a
small team, but yet, lots of us to wear lots of different hats and different roles and those types of things. But excellent. So what's a good book that you would recommend people read in your industry?
Yeah, I read a bunch of stuff. I'm reading Atomic Habits right now. I'd read it previously. I think that's a terrific book. That's there. There's one I'm reading now called something about stillness by Ryan Holiday. It's more of a stoic mentality. And so I think that's really directly related to crisis, because I think that in crisis, and leaders that find themselves in crisis moments and needing to lead an organization or advise an organization, I really believe it's the crucible of crisis doesn't develop your skill set, it reveals your skill sets. And so I think having a root of stillness and a root of clarity is really important for folks in crisis communications, and big, earth rattling crises, not normal, business challenges. But I think having that reservoir of clarity is really important. So those are 2, Ryan Holiday's Stillness and Atomic Habits are both really great books nowadays.
And of course, your book, right? Let's talk about your book.
I did write our book, Critical Moments, New Mindset of Reputation Management, and sort of took this model of what we're doing around reputation management, which is typically a byproduct post-crisis, to really articulate a framework. And I'm sure you're familiar with the 4 Ps of marketing from way back in the day. You learned about the 4 Ps.
I know, I'm teaching marketing now, so it's like it's all coming back.
Yeah, the 4 Ps of marketing came up in the 60s and sort of first articulation of the marketing mix. And we can argue if price, product, place, and promotion are still relevant. I think they kind of are. They're pretty durable. Digital crosscuts all of them. So that's the big innovation. So what I did is I created what are the 4 A's of reputation management? And the folktale goes that CEO and I had just finished this crisis together. We were debriefing in her office in New York, and she said, all along you've been talking about reputation management. What do you mean? And I was sort of jargon filled and consultant buzz speak, and she was not tracking with me on what I meant about the distinction between brand and reputation. She didn't quite get it. And she said, so you mean something like the 4 Ps of marketing? And I said, well, no, I haven't really articulated that way. So that night on the flight home, cocktail napkin on the plane, and I actually mapped out the 4 A's of reputation management, which are awareness, assessment, authority, and then action, are the 4 A's, to really set a roadmap for how you do reputation management at an enterprise level.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm going to have to check out the book for sure. Now I need to learn my 4 A's and and then of course now there's the C's too, right?
Absolutely.
Client, consumer, and campaign. I mean, all of the things that you think of.
Yeah, everybody loves that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I've got the 5 R's, Ray's 5 R's. So it's ratings, recommendations, referrals, ranking, and reviews and rewards.
Yeah, very good.
Anyway, yeah, there's definitely lots of ways to communicate that, but I like that. It makes it so that you can remember it and understand, and so I think that.
Yeah, and that's what, when you look back at the 4 A's or excuse me, the 4 P's, the big innovation of the 4 P's from my vantage point, as you look at corporations, price, product, place, promotion, is that a CMO or a leader of sales and marketing, well, first of all, it delineated the difference between sales and marketing, which is very fuzzy, and now it became two distinct disciplines. But for a marketer, if you have this 4 P's, what you really get to do is you get to assign budget and assign a responsibility. So if you look deeply into an organization, you see most marketing organizations are organized around some semblance of price, product, place, and promotion. And similarly, what we tried to do with the 4 A's of reputation management is to give leaders assignable function areas, which then budget can follow, to actually do the right thing and actually grow a reputation the same way you want to try to grow a brand in those 4 P's of marketing.
What are you proud of? Like, what accomplishments have you made that you're most proud of?
Well, professionally or personally, I think personally it's raising 2 amazing daughters, both really strong, powerful, confident women that I feel really passionately about. Obviously, they're my children, but both of them are emerging as strong, powerful, confident women. And I was raised by one, and so for me to sort of help channel that for them. I think professionally is that we as a firm have grown. We've been in service, but we've also been able to provide bonuses and payroll to a number of people, some that have been from the beginning and others that have come and gone. But really, I think build a firm that serves people, but also build a firm that helps families and helps our team, which is really important to me.
Excellent. Okay, Bill, how can people reach out to you? How can they engage with you?
Yeah, it's great. Well, first of all, LinkedIn is great. Bill Coletti on LinkedIn. I'm very try to stay active and do some publishing there. Specifically for this podcast, if folks are interested, we're going to set up a Kith, KITH.co as our website. And then we're going to have a special link just for this. We'll give you for the show notes so that folks can actually go there and get some content, get some of the things that I shared. Love to have conversations with people. And then Twitter, B Coletti on Twitter is the great place to be. And that's COLETTI.
Excellent. We will definitely get those out there. And thank you for that, for the audience. Okay, one last question for you.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in 5-10 years from now?
Awesome. Well, we are really fortunate as a firm. We take that question very, very seriously. So what we want to do is that in 5 years, we want to have created what we call a self-managing company that lets me as the leader go do something next. And whether that is write a next book, go sail around the world, or dig in deeper into what we're doing already. But it's really to create both revenue growth and innovation that lets us really continue to serve great new clients. But very specifically, it's to give me the personal freedom to go do something next.
I love that. That's awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And we will get this link out there for everyone. And for all of our listeners, until next time, enjoy the journey. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Ray. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Expedition podcast. Find more online at peppershock.com. Wouldn't it be great if there was one place you can go to get all the latest information and tips about marketing and advertising? The Marketing Expedition community is that place. People like you gather in our online community to build relationships with others and find the latest marketing trends, tactics, tools, and technology. We help you build your brand and your bottom line. Start your adventure today. Visit themarketingexpedition.com to find out more.